Here with his thoughts, Republican Congressman from New York, Peter King. Good to see you, Congressman.
Trish, good to be with you. I was just hoping you would ask the president to wait till I was on, but you know how it is,
Well, it's good to see you as always, and I guess if you
Trish.
have to get, bumped a couple minutes,
Right.
It might as well be for the President of the United States. Congressman, first of all, tell me your thoughts here on the Iran situation. He's talking about our nuclear arsenal and how we need to make sure it's in tip-top shape. When you look at Iran and you look at South Korea and North Korea, and you look at the trouble the people there in South Korea may be in because of this mad dictator in the north, are we going to find ourselves in a situation where we're actually having to think about using nuclear arsenal?
Well, I think we always have to think about the potential of using it, and I think the more we think about it, the less likely it'll be that we have to use it. Listen, we are up against very dangerous opponents, certainly in the short term with North Korea. I think Iran is more sensible than North Korea. They're right in the long term. North Korea, it could happen at any time, but I don't think that Kim Jong-un is suicidal, and I think that the more he sees that President Trump is strong, that President Trump does have the nuclear deterrent, that makes it less likely that we have a war. And I think, by the way, just over the last few weeks, ever since the President gave the speech at the UN, for the first time we've seen some real progress involving North Korea, with China, again, for the first time, talking about imposing real sanctions on North Korea. Now, they have to follow through, but this is the furthest they've ever gone, even in discussing the possibility of it, and they say they're going to do it. So I think the president's policies work. It's important for North Korea to know that the U.S. is serious, and they're not going to get away with any type of aggression.
And by the U.S. being serious, it's not just us, right? Because, look, we shouldn't be trading with North Korea anyway, but it's also the rest of the world, specifically China. I mean, I keep hearing that China is really the key to North Korea. So if we want North Korea to disarm, China actually has to put some pressure on it.
Yeah, by the way, China is the key to North Korea, but I think that if North Korea knows that the U.S. is serious and China realizes the U.S. is serious, the last thing China wants is a war in their backyard. So this puts pressure on them to, in turn, put pressure on North Korea. So it's all connected here. This is interconnected. It's a complicated world, complicated issue. But the fact is that by us being strong, us leaning on North Korea or standing up against North Korea, that also gives us then the bargaining wedge we need with China to have them put pressure on North Korea as far as credit, as far as banks, as far as doing business, and as far as supplying energy.
Let me ask you about tax cuts. What's the likelihood this stuff gets done this year?
I hope it gets done. The issue that I have is on the taking away of the state income and local real property tax. That would be devastating to my district and to other
Congressman,
districts.
I know it would be. Hey, I like being able to deduct my state and local taxes too as a resident of New York City. I hear you on that. I hear you. But is it fair? I mean, is it fair that, New York gets to keep part of my income that otherwise would go to the federal government?
I'll tell you why it's fair. Is because that New York is what's called a donor state. We give more to the federal government in revenues than we get back. We get about 79 cents on the dollar. Many of the other states who accuse us of getting this benefit on the deduction, they're getting far more back than they put in. New Jersey is even, they get a worse deal than we do. I think they're down to 61 cents. So we get 79 cents on the dollar. I think California gets 77. So no, we are the donor states. We are the ones who I would say are subsidizing other parts of the country, and at least they can do is give us a break. It's not even a break, just treat us fairly.
Well, Congressman, I have a feeling you're going to win on that one, because I think that there are too many of you from important states that do mean a lot to the federal coffers. And so it's not going to you're not going to see tax reform go anywhere unless you have all of you guys on board. But again, the likelihood of it being done this year, are you more skeptical? You say you hope it gets done. Are you more skeptical about that timing?
No, only anytime you're talking about 2 or 3 months, that's very quick for Congress. Having said that, I strongly support supply-side economics. I support tax cuts. I was a disciple of Jack Kemp going back to the 1970s. I think the Reagan tax cuts in '81, the country is still getting the benefit of them. That's what turned our economy around, and we've been basically, you've seen the benefit of that ever since. By the way, with Reagan, he went with the tax cuts in '81, and then the larger tax reform came 5 years later. One way or the other, we have to get these cuts.
Well, I think a lot of people would really like to see them. Congressman King, it's good to see you.
Always good to see you. Thanks, Trish.